Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you briefly about HB 5974, a bill to change the Electoral College process in Michigan. I come to you representing People for the American Way. We're a national grassroots nonprofit organization fighting for voting rights, civil rights, and equality for all. With my testimony to you today, I'm including for the record a petition with 49,602 Americans demanding that you reject the idea of changing the Electoral College system to a proportional method. 2151 Michiganders are also signers on this petition. About 34 Michigan PFON members are in the room today as signers of this petition. Manipulating the Electoral College vote is a blatant power grab by national Republicans to rig the game for the presidency. People for the American Way has fought similar measures in Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Wisconsin, and numerous other states. It's a pattern that national Republicans have repeatedly attempted in order to tip the tables in their favor when their presidential candidates can't win on the issues. On January 13, 2013, RNC Chairman Reince Priebus publicly supported the tactic, stating, "I think it's something that a lot of states that have been consistently blue, that are fully controlled red, ought to be looking at." Priebus' suggestion that the red states that vote blue in presidential elections should reconstitute their electoral college systems should not be underestimated by those interested in the legitimacy of the American democracy. Nor should it come as a surprise for those of us who have observed Republican tactics in the past, utilizing voter suppression and obstruction. In 2012, if this plan had been in place, Barack Obama would have received 12 of Michigan's 16 electoral college votes, and Mitt Romney would have received 4, even though he lost the popular vote by more than 450,000 votes. Contrary to the sponsor's assertion that Michigan would be helped under this scheme, the opposite is actually true. If the two parties know they will only get part of Michigan's 16 electoral votes, there will be little incentive for them to campaign here. That means national elections will be decided in places like Iowa, Colorado, Florida, and Ohio. Michigan will be taken for granted by both major national parties and effectively mute the chances of minor parties being able to win the presidency. I would be remiss if I did not mention that attempting to rig the national presidential election results via electoral reapportionment is an idea that has been put forth by extremist right-wing interests and corporate lobbying groups like the American Legislative Exchange Council, also known as ALEC. Over the past 2 presidential election cycles, ALEC and other groups have floated several different formulas of this so-called model legislation for electoral college rigging in order to advance their corporate and extremist agendas. Similar to ALEC's attempts to promote voter suppression tactics like voter ID, gerrymandering, erasing campaign finance restrictions, and squelching campaign finance reform, this legislation is just more of the same. It is part of ALEC's and national Republicans' efforts to systematically manipulate the American electoral system in favor of the corporate interest groups they represent and those whom contribute to their campaigns. This isn't the first time we've seen these powerful lobbyists and politicians try to rig the election in Republicans' favor. In 2012 and 2014,
30 seconds.
I'll wrap it up as quickly as I can, Madam Chair. In 2012 and 2014, the Republican Party led a coordinated campaign to disenfranchise millions of voters through burdensome voter ID laws, switches in polling locations, and arcane voting caging tactics. Although Republicans are couching their proposals in language of fairness, the motivation for changing the Electoral College is purely partisan. I will wrap up by saying this plan would change that. The road to the White House would make a detour around Michigan and the issues that we think are important. They won't be addressed in these presidential campaigns if you enact this legislation. We believe it is a direct affront to democracy. It flies in the face of the constitutional winner-take-all system that currently exists in all but 2 U.S. states. Finally, I must stress with this body a key principle, that simply because state legislatures have the authority to determine their own electoral college votes and the way they are allocated, that does not mean they have unfettered authority. Enacting this legislation could ultimately bring about a constitutional crisis and cause havoc in Michigan's and the national electoral college system, as well The people have the ultimate authority. Finally, on behalf of the People for the American Way and its members, the 2151 Michiganders and 49,602 Americans who have signed this petition, I implore you to reject this type of electoral rigging. Rather, I would humbly suggest that if candidates wish to win the presidency, that they, and I'm referring to all candidates, not just one party, they begin to represent all of the people, promoting ideas and policies to bring about full equality and fairness, re-enfranchisement of every voter, and reject extremist ideas such as this legislation. The people are watching, and we will hold you accountable as elected representatives for enacting purely partisan and undemocratic legislation such as this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in today. No questions. At this time, I'll read in cards of those who did not wish to speak.